Dan Peña, and I'm sitting in my home here in Asia, a place that will stay undisclosed for my own privacy, to announce the first real new product, QLA product, that we've had since the 90s. It's structured around the Quantum Leap action plan, and it has 8 role plays and 12 hours of audio with slides attached. I'm pretty excited about it. As excited as I can do after being in business 40 years and after coaching almost 20 years. It was taped at Guthrie Castle, the last Guthrie Castle seminar, and it has a lot of interaction. It has some very, very good role playing. It has some not so good role playing, so you can see the difference. More importantly, it shows the critique. This is your opportunity, if you ever wanted to know how you can take whatever your dream is, whatever your idea is, whatever your notion is, and turn it into reality with no money in this marketplace, whether you're in the UK, you're in Korea, you're in South Africa, or you're in Jacksonville, Florida. You need to listen to these audios and look at the slides. We have made it easy. It's downloadable from the site. We have made it relatively inexpensive at $177. We have made it over the last almost 6 months. It's taken quite a long time to put all this together. It was a lot more difficult than I ever thought it was going to be. My webmaster, who is holding this video, Charles, did a great job, but there's countless hours in this. The cutting, editing, the pasting, the deciding what was important, what was not important. But to distill it down to 12 hours was pretty miraculous. Our next Castle seminar is in May, in about 3 months from this tape. I hope to see some of you there. I know we're already not fully booked, but almost fully booked. And I never get tired of giving the seminar. I never get tired of talking about the QLA. But more importantly, it's really important for you to understand that no matter what the economy is, we have people following this methodology, same as I did with no money. I started with $820 and finding dream teams, finding finance for their dream. So if that's what you want out of life, and you want a different perspective, you want more opportunities and more choices for you and your family, move forward, take action, and get this tape, buy this audio and slide presentation. Thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you, and I look forward to your comments. Okay, good morning. Today's Wednesday, the 27th of October, a few days from Halloween. Today we're going to start the action plan, and we'll start with growth. But Mikey had a question. Mikey, again.
Mr. Peña, how long do you believe that it would actually take to make that quantum leap, even if you do completely understand the methodology, or if you do believe that you understand the methodology?
The quickest that it's ever been done is by me when I decided in spring, March-ish of 1984, I saw an opportunity in the UK. I came back to the US and I bought assets and I took them public in August of '84. So that's April, May, June, July, August, 5 months. And I made about 50 million, more or less, pounds, not dollars.
Is that with Great Western?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Lucinda did it in about 7 or 8 months, depending on when you say she started. Or if you go back to March of 1983, when I was running down Torrance Boulevard with my wife at the time, and I turned to her and I said, "Gee, honey, I think I want to, let's buy a castle on an island." She says, of course, dear. And so from March to, so then that's about 12 and 5, 4, 16, 17 months. It's not, well, I won't say it's not that hard because it is hard. But I mean, if you don't think about anything else, and you don't hang out, and you don't fuck around, and you don't listen to your parents, and you don't listen to your friends, and you don't listen to your brother, and I mean, and that's all you do, and you just run around like if you had a heart on and would put it up somebody's ass for, you know, day after day, minute after minute, and you stay focused. But inevitably, it's very difficult to stay focused, now, especially now. All you guys are fucking twixing and jerking off and, you know, laptops, and I didn't have any of that. Didn't have any of that. So I didn't, you know. But, I mean, if you stay driven, and don't think about anything else, the most crucial thing is, you know, get a chairman and a dream team. Some people can do it in weeks. Some people take a year. That's the truth. Some people do it in weeks. Some people take a year. Some people take a year to get a chairman. And, of course, are they asking 3 guys a day? No. They ask 1 or 2 and they feel bad and they got to go back to their house and their apartment and lick their wounds because the guy said, what the fuck? You? Forget about it. And then it takes you 3 months to recoup and you suck up your pantyhose, man up, nut up, and go out again. The most important, for the lay person like you guys, the most important person, if you want to do this, and you can do a quantum leap without anything. I'm not trying to tell you can't. It's infinitely harder, and the probabilities of you failing are astronomical. Because you're selling off a track record of 0. And nobody wants to be the first guy that you lose their money. Nobody. Even a fucking idiot doesn't want to be the first guy. That's why, you got Brad Pitt in the movie? Hey, you know? Or you got Scorsese going to direct it? But that ain't going to happen. That's not going to be, you know, the probabilities of that happening aren't that great. They're not impossible, because nothing's impossible, because I like to tell the story of Sylvester Stallone and Rocky. He wanted to write it, produce it, direct it, and star in it, if I remember correctly. And he wrote the script, and he made 250, 300 presentations. Everybody in town meaning Hollywood, that area, in California, told him, fuck off. Plus, he talked funny. He had a kind of a lisp because he had something wrong with his lip, and he fuck off. Plus, he started as a porn star. Okay, that wasn't so bad, but you know, I guess he wasn't such a great porn star. And so he was reading for a part on a movie, and I don't know what the movie was. And the guy sitting at the table will listen to him and say, "Okay, we'll get a hold of you." That means fuck off. We'll get a hold of you. Fuck off. So he's walking out the door. A lot of these things, the guys are walking out the door. They're out the fucking door. He's out the door like this, about halfway out, and he says, and he pulls, hey, I had something in my pocket. By the way, are you interested in a good script? And the rest is history. Then it took him 2 or 3 years because nobody wanted to direct it, nobody wanted him to produce it, and they sure as fuck didn't want him to star in it. But they liked the storyline. And so he held out and he said, and he finally, you know, starred in the movie, and then the rest is history. And, you know, he became a big star, and he made a bunch of Rockies and a bunch of Rambos and a bunch of other shit. Stories like that happen. What's his name? The guy that Raiders of the Lost Ark. What's that guy? Harrison Ford. Same deal. He's a carpenter on the set. And George Lucas. They liked him. He's a likable guy. Hey, would you like to read for a part? For Star Wars. And he says, yeah, I never did that before, but why not? That ain't going to happen to you, cunts. So don't be dreaming for that shit. That's not going to happen to you. But it does happen. It does happen. But in case that doesn't happen to you, this is what you can make work, QLA. QLA. So it can be done in a short period of time, but most people take a year or two, because the first most important thing is to put the board together. Second most important thing, in my judgment, is your first acquisition, and then the rest is more or less history, because then you got a track record. And on the board, the most important thing is to get a credible chairman that people you don't have to explain about. Another story, I used to be partners with a guy named Bob Anderson, who was the youngest secretary of the Navy, and he was the secretary of the Navy for FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And I was sitting with him, and he's the one that had, the reason I say I started the company with $820, because he put up $180. But I had bought him out about after 6 months or 8 months, because he was older, and he didn't want to be involved. And I'm at his house in Dallas, and a very famous guy, and had made a lot of money. And he said, and we were talking about getting somebody in for a joint venture partner. And he said, you got to explain about him. We don't want him. I said, what do you mean, sir? You got to explain about him. He said, well, let me tell you a little story. All these guys tell stories. Let me tell you a little story. Many years ago, bless you, many years ago, my son, he wanted to be a minister. And he is a minister, Baptist minister now. But he said he had a chance of going to Hardin Simmons College, which is a fine Bible college in Texas, or Harvard. And his father tells him, Hardin Simmons, it's a fine school, and he could live at home. This guy wanted to live at home and go to school. Okay, you can tell them what kind of guy he was. He wanted to live at home, and so he could do Bible study more often. And he said, son, you don't want to go to Hardin Simmons fine school because you got to explain about it. You don't have to explain about Harvard. And that's why you want a chairman that you don't have to explain about. You want him to be able to fly in on his cape, And that's what this is all about. I bought my first one, first board. If you can buy a board, all the more easy. But I don't see any of you buying any boards. Okay. Any questions from last night or anything that we've covered so far? Before we go into the action plan, I reread everybody's goals and affirmations again, and I read Benedict's, who came in late, and I want to cover three things that are really important. I didn't gloss over them. I pounded them pretty hard, but I'm going to pound them again after I look at these again in the light of a new day this morning. And even though we didn't have to start early, I was up early. I was running around the castle in my Superman pajamas. I don't think any of you saw me, but I was running around the castle in my Superman pajamas this morning. And I poked fun at it, but I want to say this in seriousness. For the people that have had some success and have made some money, and you know who you are in the room, on the one hand, on the one end of the continuum, Doris has been in the business for 500 years, and for the other end of the continuum, let's say Dave, who hasn't been in the business that long. It can be easily argued that you've made your money one by, remember how Richard Goldsmith said, trial and error, time, and it kills you. I mean, Doris has been in the business long enough to know the business and make all the mistakes there ever were to make. Whereas Dave, it can be argued easily that he's made his money more or less by accident. And people that make their money by accident are normally separated from their money. Now he's trying and he wants to know tips and how do you do this, and there's a book to read, etc., etc. But the fact that neither one of you really have demonstrated a will to be around other high-performance persons means that sooner or later, the odds are that somebody's going to separate you from your money. Because basically you just you don't deal with anybody except the idiots in your company. And you've already experienced in the last 2 years, and which didn't have to happen, but did happen. And when you say that you've got a great accountant who's been there forever, and you've got, if these people have been there forever, then they should have, maybe they did, should have stopped you from doing some of the things that you did. And you haven't had anybody forever, and you've got a cheating accountant and a this and a that and the other thing. And again, I would be highly surprised if they're not stealing from you. So you're setting yourself up for failure, or you set yourself up for failure, and you had some trouble, and you already know that, so you're making some changes, and you're setting yourself up for failure. Now, I don't know Marcus's background as well, other than it's from a brief conversation we had yesterday. I mean, he's not sure that he's pretty sure he's in the wrong business to make big money. And these decisions and these insights should be almost instantaneous to you guys. And if they're not instantaneous to you guys, you're fucking brain dead. And as I said, and Robert tried to make it sound better at lunch or dinner, I forget when it was, that the reason why not everybody is successful as they can be after they come through the seminar is because you have to admit to yourself that you fucked up a long time. Now, Robert smoothed it up. I said, but you learned something, yada, yada, yada. But that's his personality. That's not mine. You fucked up. Because you're so young, virtually all of you, it's not like you've wasted 20 years. So, but it's really important. I can't emphasize it enough that if you don't start dealing with, like immediately, people that are smarter than you, that are more canny than you, that are more successful than you, you're fucked. You're fucked long term. Short term and intermediate term. But for sure long term. And as Richard DeVos said, the founder of Amway, you hang around with poor people, and I'm not trying to demean people that don't have money, because money's not everything. Maybe they got happiness. But you hang around with those people 25 years from now, 20 years from now, and Doris and I can relate, because she's can look back 20 years and know what she was doing, and you wonder what happened to the 20 years, and what happened to those faint dreams that are now faint because you're now 45, 50 years old and they're faint. What happened to them? They never happened. And family is great, and I wish that I had been closer, nicer to my mother who died here at the castle, but I wasn't. So that's one of the regrets I have. But I don't lose any fucking sleep over it. And it's not that great to be in a family business. I told you I've only seen one family business succeed in all these years. And so you got to make some choices. And I'm stealing some of my thunder from the last day. But I went through these again, and I read the goals and aspirations, and I thought, should we just do the exercise again? Or should I tell them and fuck the exercise, not waste time? So I decided to tell you and not waste fucking time. Because your goals and aspirations probably wouldn't be much different than these that you just wrote. And a month from now, when we have our conference call, or a month from when we end, or about 4 or 5 weeks, and I ask you, who you've been seeing, I'm hoping to hear, for your sakes, I'm praying to hear, not the same fucking idiots, or nobody. Because then you wasted your money here. You just pissed it down a rat hole. Better you go to, Munich and get hookers and have a good weekend. Or, you can do it right in Reno. You don't even have to go anyplace.
This experience is invaluable.
Well, I know it's invaluable, but whether you do something with it going forward, that's the test. A lot of people, everybody says it's invaluable, but it's the test going forward. And so I wanted to make that strong statement about the kind of people that you're dealing with. Second thing is, When I read the obituaries, and the obituaries are always hard to write, I chuckled through a couple of them. I already chuckled. The father and the great husband that Mikey's going to be. Well, I mean, only the Lord knows. It's a nice aspiration, but in the businesses he's in, tough. Very, very tough. Because all the flesh is for sale, basically. Some of the obituaries were very long. Some were short, succinct, and to the point. But when I wrote my own obituary, I wrote about stuff that you guys didn't write about. And I asked Sally about that this morning. And I'm trying to think why, other than I'm a lot more experienced than you. And I've written some other people's obituaries, but I didn't write about things that I wasn't. I wrote about things that I've done and expect to expand upon in the years that I've got left. And perhaps it's because you haven't done much. I mean, for those of you that said you want to be like Doris, a great mom and a great this and a great that. Well, she's already a mom and a grandmom, So I would, in a month from now, I'm going to tell you that you should write another obituary. And then at the end of a year, after we've had 10, 12 conference calls, I'll tell you to write another obituary. It's easy to see from my perspective, from a coaching's perspective, that you need to work on feeling better about yourselves as human beings. And that's all self-esteem, self-worth, all the things that I've pounded the last couple of days. Some people talk about having a lot of self-worth and self-esteem like Mikey, but he has less than he talks about. But that's his style, that's his bravado, and that's okay. But you need to work on feeling good about yourself. And the only way you feel good about yourself, in my judgment, is to do positive things, not for your psyche, but positive things in life. Go out, and if you buy a company, or when you buy a company, you'll feel so good about yourself, you won't know whether to shit or go blind. Mm-hmm. First acquisition is better than any sex I ever had. I mean, and the 1,000th acquisition was better than the first. Because you're fighting the world. Now you're not fighting anybody. You're fighting some little Rufus Doofuses in Reno, or Tokyo, or wherever the fuck you are. And you're not really competing against anybody but yourself. Now that's great to compete against yourself because you'll almost always win. But when you come up a heads up against somebody like me, or not even somebody like me, the heads up against Robert, Benjamin, or Marcus against Dave, or Dave against Doris, and the person or the persons or the group or the company or the limited liability company has had success when you overcome all the pitfalls, all the downfalls. I mean, it's the best thing for your self-esteem ever. And that's why I say you go out and be successful, or get on the road to success, and your self-esteem grows and you feel good, as opposed to what most of the other guys say, I'll make you feel good, and you go out and be successful. So we will talk some more when we're doing our interviewing process, and we're giving presentations. And Dave will give a presentation to Mikey, or Mikey to Marcus, or whatever. It's important to realize, or to know, this is the first stepping stone. Now, Dave's already given some presentations without not that much success, which isn't the end of the world. He's just beginning. And I know Benjamin and Benedict have given some presentations. and I'm sure Doris has as well. But take the presentations, the communication skills that you need to build to make QLA come to fruition, as Mikey asked at the beginning of the session, are critical. And none of us want to practice. We're all lazy. You know, if I practiced 50 hours before this week started, how many hours should you practice? So when you're thinking of that and you're working on presentations or whatever you're working on, you know, the question, what would Dan do? If Dan does an hour for hour, if I'm going to go make a presentation to a financial institution and I expect it to be 45 minutes, I practice 3 hours. And I already know I'm 10 times smarter than anybody in the room. I'm 10 times more experienced than anybody in the room. And I'm 10 times more intimidating than anybody in the room. And if I practice 3 to 1, and you can't intimidate anybody, you're not smart, you're the dumbest guy in the room, and you've got no experience, how much, you know, I'm asking you, I'm not telling you, how much should you practice? It's like a world-class athlete. They train 12, 14 years for 3 minutes in the Olympics, or 5 minutes in the Olympics, or 10 seconds in the Olympics. Okay. And the last thing, let's see. See if I covered everything. Yeah, I think I covered everything. Okay.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
You had said in prior seminars I've been to that the way to hang around with people that are successful and so forth is like join a club, which I did for
That's one way, yeah.
Gene and I did this year. It's called the Citrus Club, and that's where all the business people go, and it's been there forever. It's one of the most prestigious downtown Orlando. But the people just go there and hang out and cocktails and that and this and that and the other. I don't see.
Well, okay, that's a good point. Even though I didn't do it this way, the Rotary Club, the Kiwanis Club, but if you join a club like that, you want to get on the committees. You want to get on the finance committee.
They're free jobs, though. It takes a
Huh?
lot of time.
I know. Well, you know, you want to get on the finance committee. You want to get on the communications committee. You want to get on whatever the committees are.
Rotary Club. I'm sorry.
Rotary is probably, I don't know if it's better than Kiwanis, but it's the one that has, you know, a lot of people. And you want to be an officer in the Rotary Club. You want to be, you know, the treasurer or the vice president of whatever the titles are. And then they give you a job, and it normally lasts 1 or 2 years, and then they turn it over to somebody else. For the young people, that'll really be a big deal, because young people don't do that. They just don't. Rufus Doofus Bogdan joined the Rotary Club in Manila, and it's you know, and the former president of the Rotary Club is a good friend of mine in Manila, Ken Butt, who's a developer. But just joining the club isn't going to do shit. You're just, you know, waste time, and you might meet some nice people, but thank you. But become an officer, or they may have a special project, you know, raising money for orphans, or, you know, rape victims, or whatever, and you will get the responsibilities, and you'll learn about other things. Plus, other people that are substantial people say, "Oh, Doris, you know, came out here, and you know," and you'll get opportunities. Somebody may call you on New Year's Eve and say, "Hey, you want to buy this company for less money that's in the bank? You got cash?" And then, "Oh yeah, I can handle that." But it's certainly not going to be what you're doing now. And somebody may say, "Marcus, you know, I wish I could say it in German so I could sound like Hitler or something, but I can't. You know, bright young kid, you know, let's give him a shot. Let's see, you know, how would you like to do this? And you know, how would you like to be a junior partner in this or whatever?" because I wasn't the bright, I really was the brightest young kid around when I was a kid, but then nobody knew that other than me, And so, they gave me these shots and I jumped on them. I didn't hesitate. Well, let me think about it. Absolutely. Okay, what's that? What's my first? And when they do that, what's my first action item? Not I'm going to email you. I'm going to fuck your. What's my first action item? How can I help now? And then they'll say, yeah, Dick, he was, he came right out, and he wants help. And that's what they're looking for. That's what all these guys are looking for. When Fidel Vargas was here, when he was the youngest mayor in the United States, he was on the 50 or 100 most likely guys to succeed in America under 30. And he went to the White House, and the president asked him and 2 or 3 other guys what they thought. This was Clinton in those days. And now he manages $1 billion. And Fidel, if you listen to this, says kids are lazy, not like him. He says, I got to send my oldest son to the seminar. I said, fine, let him come. It's for free. But that is one way. Now, if you're a world-class athlete and you're a great tennis player, you meet really great people. But I don't see any world-class athletes in the room. So the easiest way is what I call social club. And you'll meet some fantastic people. The guys are all young enough to join YPO. If you had a company and you had employees and, I forget what the cutoff is, you got to have at least 100 employees and do at least 25 million in revenue, I think. YPO is a great organization. There's other great organizations, young entrepreneurs. I'm not as familiar with that. That's a thing that's developed in the last 10 or 15 years. And there's a number of them. But you're not joining them for a social outing. That's important to know. You're there to make contacts and to a great degree influence people. Influence people that you're a young, bright, or not so young, bright person that they should take notice of. Any other questions? Okay. We're going to talk, when we're talking about deals, about this offer that I got yesterday that they want to do in front of you guys, but I'm not going to do it in front of you guys. But I'm going to show you the offer so you can see it, so you can understand. Now, I'm not saying this is a great structure. I'm not saying it's a bad structure, but it's an often used structure, which would take you 5 years to figure out reading books, if ever. Because this is an offer based on 100 transaction history. So they figured this out from sweat and toil. We'll talk about that later. Okay, growth. Nobody in this room is in the position to go public now, but the decision that you're going to make someday, sooner than later, is whether you're going to stay in the private sector or the public sector. There's huge benefits of the public sector, and there's some downsides of the public sector. The public sector is they can throw you out on your fucking ass. And right now, there's nobody in this room, and I am saying this as respectful as I can, that could qualify to be an officer in a public company. None. Zero. Okay. And there's two ways of raising money in the public sector and the private sector. Everybody thinks about going public, IPO, or in this country and in Europe they call it a flotation. How going to public is really not material to this seminar. The question is it viable for you? At this stage of your business, the answer is no. Okay. In 3 to 5 years, the answer may be yes. But there is a huge fiduciary responsibility when you take money in the public sector. And with all the laws and all the people that have stolen and Madoff and Enron and everybody and his dog, I mean, the constraints are extremely, extremely tight now. But it's still possible. But there's also a fiduciary responsibility on you if you do a little deal and you take money from in the private sector. I mean, the laws are very stringent. Even in Nevada, you just can't take their money. I mean, there's consequences. And so when I hear people flap their mouth about we're going to go public, and especially if they're young, I realize they haven't really thought it through and they really don't know. And again, on your board, you'll have a guy that is either served on a public company or advised a public company, and you don't have to, you don't have to know all the T's to cross and the I's to dot. Private placements are, let's say that, let's say it's a better example. Dave wants to expand his business to wherever, some other state. He doesn't want to use his own cash, other than to set up a LLC, limited liability company or something. And so he decides that based on his track record of 5 or 6 years, whatever it is, he's going to put up a portion of the money, and he's going to put up $1 million of his own money, and he's going to raise $4 million in what's called a private placement. Private placement is an investment memorandum, 50 pages or whatever. 20 pages say that if you put money in this, you're going to lose it. It's too risky, etc., because that's what the laws are now. That explains what the track record is, who are the people that are involved in the company, who's the chairman, who's Dave, who's this, etc., etc. And then you take money in, and you, under certain terms and guidelines, we're going to pay you 8% or 12% a year, either in a preferred return, meaning that you get the money before I do, or before Dave does in this case, or it's going to be a straight return. Everybody gets the same amount. Or it's not even a return on your money year by year or quarter by quarter. It's when we sell the deal, we split the money up, 60% for Dave and 40% for the investors. Or 60% for the investors and 40% for Dave. And the lawyers put it together, and the accountants, etc., and it costs, probably $25,000 to put a private placement together today. Infinitely cheaper than a public offering. One of the reasons that I went to Europe and the UK to do my public offering is nobody was interested in a little, $20 million deal in the US back in those days. And in the UK, it was still enough to gain people's attention. Do you need a financial advisor? Do you need securities lawyers? You need financial advisor and securities lawyers for sure if you're going to do in the public arena. If you're going to do a private placement, you need a securities lawyer, but you don't necessarily need a financial advisor. Investment bankers, merchant bankers, stockbrokers, UBS, which is a big company, which is in Switzerland, United Bank of Switzerland, ABC Securities is in a company that's just an acronym. And for the private placement, you don't need investment bankers. For the private placement, you don't need merchant bankers. And the difference between an investment banker and a merchant banker puts his own capital in. He puts money at risk. In the old days, all the investment banks were merchant banks, and they all put their money. But now they figured out, why risk our money? Let's go get money from Doris Doofus here to put money in, sell her a load of shit, and she'll put the money in. And we'll take a fee. Because most of the investment community are, all the investment community are fee-driven. They're only interested in fees. That doesn't mean that they go out of their way to put you in a bad deal. But in my humble opinion, they're not as stringent as they should be. Yes?
Dan, I don't remember how long ago it was, in the last few years or a couple of years, whenever I went to see, I looked up and found the best attorney that handles in Orlando, Florida, taking public companies public. And he basically said to me that, it's not happening today. He basically said that it's just a waste of money and this and that and the other. So, Well,
the IPO market for small things has dried up. I mean, it's dried up 6-7 years ago, it was hot, or then a pancake pan. But now it's dried up, and now the IPO market has not done well in the last 18 months. And part of the reason it hasn't done well is because of the stock market collapse that bottomed out in March, April of 2009. So, I mean, he probably wasn't telling you something wrong, and he was giving you accurate advice. But they're little boutique slop shops, as they're called, that are 1 or 5 or 10-man offices. It's still arranged for you to go public, and they still put you on the pink sheets, which I'm not. It's a tertiary market. It's not very good. But don't put you on NASDAQ or the American Stock Exchange or the New York Stock Exchange, or in this country, the London Stock Exchange, or AIM, which is a secondary market here. But there's most of the people that are still entertaining going public are small little companies. They're going on the secondary exchanges, not the main exchanges, because their big deals aren't big enough. There's more scrutiny on the bigger exchanges. To go on the pink sheets and some of the other lesser exchanges, there's not as much scrutiny. They don't allow fraud. Knowingly, they don't allow fraud, but they certainly they're not as strict as the London Stock Exchange or the New York Stock Exchange. And there's foreign exchanges, as I alluded to. I mean, I went public in Amsterdam. I looked at going public in Hong Kong years ago, and there are exchanges virtually, not in every country, but almost every country. And in the third world countries, the requirements are less. To go public in the Manila Stock Exchange doesn't take too much. In some of the major exchanges, you have to have 3 years audited records. You have to be in business 3 years. Some you have to be in business 5 years, and you have to have earnings growing like what I call the hockey stick, like this. And you have no lawsuits, no problems. Everybody's got to be clean as a whistle. That's part of the company, but it's possible. But at your stage, I mean, I'm just giving you this as an overview, so you know that there's other ways to promote your growth. And who do you get to invest in these deals? Foreign financial institutions, foreign banks, insurance companies, pension funds, and then of course investors and individual shareholders. But most people don't realize that the biggest source of money are insurance companies. Insurance companies own all the big banks. And like I told Bro Crump many years ago, when she went down and sucked $55 million out of a big insurance company in Jacksonville, Florida, insurance companies control most of the wealth in the world, not banks. Banks are owned by insurance companies.
Regarding those insurance companies, are there some requirements regarding, for example, some of these insurance companies, correct me if I'm wrong, can only invest in NASDAQ or MX or NYSE?
Well, most insurance companies, not all, have a small investment arm where you can put money in private placements. Now insurance companies even hedge commodities, and they do all kind of crazy things with their money, which I wouldn't do, but they do. And why do big investment institutions and financial institutions now stray from gilt-edged quality big companies? Because they've got so much money, and they got no place to put it. So now they're looking for, now they invest in index funds and future funds and all this stuff that they never did before, because they accumulate cash, so much cash. I mean, insurance companies invest in movies now. I mean, because they take a small part of their portfolio that's associated to higher risk, and they make all kinds of crazy investments.
So they do private play.
Yeah, yes, they do. But I mean, the guys that are in America, you don't have to go out of America. I mean, there's plenty of money in the United States, and for the guys that are the one guy that's in Europe, I mean, there's plenty of money in Germany. I'm not as familiar with Austria. I don't really know, but I would assume they have investment funds just like they do in Germany. You just go across the border then. I mean, you go into Germany. You could raise all the money you want just in München. You don't have to go anyplace. because and that's I used to do that. We used to be part of our investment territory, and we had shareholders in Munich and in Frankfurt at that time. Now, it's crucially important for those of you that are control freaks. You might as well forget going public. Don't worry about it. You can just kind of shut off your brain right now, because being a minority shareholder, owning 5 or 10 or even 49% of a private company means nothing, unless they pay dividends. If they pay dividends, then you get your pro rata share of the money. But if they don't pay dividends, it's like kissing your sister. It means nothing. Nothing. And that's why when I get involved as a minority shareholder, I want to feel pretty comfortable that there's going to be a fucking exit. Because I would want to be a minority shareholder with the Russian mafia over here, like I need AIDS. Better I have AIDS than being a minority shareholder in his company. So unless I know, and sometimes by written agreement, I know we're going to fucking exit this hog, I'm not interested. I'm not interested. Because a minority shareholder, you can kick him, spit on him, just like a wife, and do all kind of shit. A wife in Manila, kick him, spit on him, rape him, make the dog have sex with him. You can do anything. And it doesn't mean shit. So minority shareholding is, when Microsoft put $250 million for 2 or 3% of Zuckerfucker, they know Zuckerfucker's going to go public, because that's the only way he's going to get super rich. But to have 2 or 3% of somebody's company is, why? 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 And a lot of people, while they say they want to exit, they really don't want to exit. Some are just going to drop dead at the helm, just to fall over in their in basket, clutching their chest. This is the big one! This is the big one! With all her cash. Better the cash than put it someplace else. So better she falls over in her in basket with a bunch of cash. So and this deal we're going to talk about after lunch, so I have 20-30% of the company, but unless we're going to exit, I need 20-30% of these doofuses, like I need AIDS. So the dark side of equity financing. The dark side of equity financing is you can lose your business. You can lose your business. Well, let's say Marcus takes in €3 million to do such and such, and if anybody puts in €3 million, we're going to have to sign like, well, we got to exit in 5 years, or you leave, or all kinds of constraints, and even though the partnership or the investment opportunity starts with the best of intentions, shit happens. And then they're stuck, and then, Marcus, you lied to us, you did this, you did that. And this often happens between brothers, fathers, sisters, everybody. Because blood's thicker than water, but money's thicker than both. That's an old Russian saying. Blood's thicker than water. How do you say that in Russian?
I don't think it exists, but...
No. Blood's thicker than water.
Blood's thicker than water. Like translated in Russian?
Yeah.
Кровь толще воды, деньги. How's it go there?
Blood's thicker than water, money's thicker than both.
Деньги еще много.
How do you say it in German?
Blut ist dicker als Wasser, aber Geld ist dicker als beides.
Hi, Hitler! Yeah. Okay, so just remember, when you start taking people's money, you have responsibilities. And now the constraints for taking people's money are even greater. Because, lawyers and accountants are even more, not more savvy, they've always been savvy, but they're more prone to make sure that they're protecting the shareholders' rights, which they should, but they're also protecting the shareholders' rights because they want to cover their own butt. The very best lawyers really care about the shareholders, but in my judgment, a lot of lawyers don't care about the shareholders. But the lawyers would argue with me about that. This is about a year old, but I couldn't find a new updated one, but it's 2008. These are the countries where the GDP, gross domestic product, are the greatest in the world. The European Union, then the United States, Japan, China, Germany, France, UK, Italy, Russia, Spain. And this is also where they have the most investment dollars. So, I mean, everybody in this room is either from one European Union. Austria's in the European Union? Yeah. Or the United States. No matter how bad the economy is, and no matter, just because the IPO market is crap, there are people funding deals, just like we'll talk about this group here, every day. Every day. But in this particular case, they have a guy who's a mentee of mine. He raises money 24/7, 365. That's all he does. He's glued to the phone, or he's glued to meetings, and that's all he does, literally. And when we talk about your individual company, in my judgment, a founder, leader, CEO should spend 95% of their time doing two things: looking for deals and looking for money. That's it, nothing else. And you should have a chief operating officer, a chief financial officer, and depending on your industry, a chief technology officer, a chief information officer running the business, and not you. A smaller business is a general manager running the business, and not you. If you want to grow, if you're just there to suck the company dry and and not have it worth anything, and just falling over in your in basket 20 years from now, as opposed to Doris maybe 3 years from now, then you don't have to do that. But I assume, I give you the benefit of the doubt, anybody that comes to this seminar is interested in growing their business. Otherwise, it wouldn't be. Another list: the World Bank, same data, similar. They say that the United States is bigger than the Eurozone. I would rather doubt that, but that's what they say. But they also say Japan, China, and they list them down to the top 10. But it's interesting that you see that on both lists, you don't see India, in my humble opinion. And when I say I'm humble opinion, I say there's nothing humble about my opinion. But in my humble opinion, the reason it doesn't say anything about India is because the lack of infrastructure in India, and they just had a deal this morning on CNN that said that it listed the most corrupt countries in the world, and separately from the ones that had the most graft, which I thought was interesting, because the most corrupt countries aren't necessarily the ones with the most graft. I would have thought they were synonymous, but they're not. But for a major economy, Russia is the most corrupt economy in the world, Russia. But it doesn't lead in graft. Pakistan, 78% of the people that did business in 2009 all participated either taking graft or paying graft. 78%. I believe it's probably 98%, but they say it's only 78%. Other countries that I've done business in, like in Yemen, is in the top 5. And it was interesting that a number of the countries that I've been in business with are in the top 10 for graft. But Russia leads the path for an economy. And that's a big economy. And they're talking about the old big Russia. This is just a schematic of the world and how it's interesting to see that the world broken down.
Now.
When we talk about finance, again, remember, like in the movie Pleasantville, most of what you've learned today is bullshit, not true. Or was true 30 years ago or 20 years ago. It's like the book Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus. It's just, it's not true, because times have changed, and the ability to get money is, while it's harder today, it's not impossible. And again, I use Robert, that knows Marcus, as an example. When he left here in April, he had been told, and he was doing smaller deals, still good-sized deals. And then when he went out there and he looked for larger amounts of money, the first thing he had to do is he had to realize that he had outgrown his banks. And I still remember Burl Crump told me a few years ago, proudly, the Royal Bank of Canada has never turned me down for a loan. And I jumped up screaming, "Are you fucking kidding me? Why are you proud of that, Burl? You obviously aren't asking for enough fucking money." Jesus. You're one of my superstars. Don't tell me that. You break my heart. And so then she immediately went back and punched her bank guy in the face and started asking for more money. And and all of us, and I don't mean this in an illegal or immoral way, but if you think you need $3 million, you ask for 7. If you think you need 70, you ask for 200. And you let them whittle you down to 110. In reality, you only needed 40. And when we get to that, and I always ask for, and I'm not lying about it, we need additional money for working capital. Working capital. And they all understand that. Plus, the banks get fees on the amount of money they put out. So they would rather give you $200 million at a point and a quarter than $70 million at a point and a quarter. And because, but the information that you've heard is not right. It's conventional wisdom, like we talked about. And conventional wisdom is not wisdom, it's just conventional. Like you asked about the frogs, or somebody asked me about the frogs. Why I have so many, oh no, that was one of my assistants anyway. The reason I have so many frogs in my office and in my homes is because I want constant reminder, and I have flag, I used to just wear frog ties. I want constant reminder, never underestimate or never forget, you got to kiss a lot of frogs to find a prince. You got to turn over a lot of rocks, you got to look at a lot of deals to find the right one. And not that I get dejected when I'm turned down, but I certainly make a scene when I'm turned down. You've got a responsibility to the shareholders. How can you possibly? I want to talk to the senior credit officer. I want another review. And when we talk about that tomorrow, that's why you got to have the right people that you're pitching. Not the wrong people, the right people. And, are you, how many people on your credit committee? 3. Well, where's the other 2 doofuses? Well, well, I'll come back, we'll reschedule, I'll come back and I'll give it to you when you're all there. Well, he's on holiday, he's on paternity leave. We're going to talk about the rules of the game, the guarantees. All questions will be answered, and every doofus project can be funded, period. Need 2 volunteers, but we're going to have 2 volunteers now. I need 2 volunteers. Okay, Mikey and Doris. Okay. Mikey, this is the scenario. Mikey's got the next Rambo, or the next Braveheart, or the next whatever, and he's going to try to get bank financing, which is difficult to get, although banks do have arms to finance for movies now, a movie project. Or better yet, he's got a portfolio of these kind of companies, and he wants to start, like we discussed last night, a soup to nuts, where you take them all in, and you take them from the womb to the tomb. Okay. Doris is an experienced entertainment lender who has heard the bullshit from the Mikeys before. Okay, and the economy is just starting to turn, and Mikey has come to wherever it is to talk to her. Before he came to see her, he sent her his executive summary, and he sent her the 4 or 5 resumes of his dream team. The chairman, an accountant, a lawyer, but he's a startup. He doesn't have a track record, but these other guys have track records in and around the entertainment industry. So he wants some seed capital to get to the next step. He spent the last 6 months putting his dream team together. He's represented by PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers, and he's represented by law firm I don't know any entertainment lawyers, an entertainment lawyer, wherever they are. Okay, entertainment lawyer. And he's in there, he's assuming that she got all the materials, and only an executive summary, not a business plan.
I don't know if I'm qualified to be the one as far as the lenders on this one, because I'm not to that degree as far as the objections that, I would have to raise. So
Okay,
maybe somebody else.
Okay, anybody else want to, okay, Benjamin? You're the banker. You certainly heard rejections from banks before, so that's good. Okay, any questions before we get started? Okay, wait a minute. Is that the coffee tea I hear?
Probably, yeah.
Okay, well, we're going to break
30.
to give you some time to get tense. Okay, we'll break. Take a break. Okay. Dave asked a good question at the break. Would you please repeat it, Dave?
Sure. When we're assembling a dream team, when we're thinking about bringing somebody on board who's more reputable, when that banker is flying in for that meeting and he's taking a look at your dream team for the first time, do they ask about relationship of the reputable members and less reputable members, and what kind of questions they may ask, and kind of what to be prepared for?
Oh, yeah, they do. Or you flying to see the banker. I mean, not necessarily them flying to see you. Yeah, one, the answer to the question is yes. Two, they before you meet with them, you've sent them an executive summary. You send them the resumes of the dream team. You send them who your accountants are, who your lawyers are. The bank may have called a lawyer, or somebody at the bank may have called the lawyer and said, what is this with these guys? How long have you represented them? And they'll say, we just started representing them. But we represented Peña 15 years ago in a public offering. They called accountants. They call accountants the same thing. But before they do that, they Google everybody. Now, in the old days, they would Lexus everybody, which is a service that you pay for that costs it used to cost $15,000 a year. I think it costs about $20,000 or $30,000 a year, which is an investigatory service that searches back about the individuals. So they'll Google everybody and see if there's anything negative. Some financial institutions will want the negative things answered first before they come out. Some will wait. The more senior guys will wait and say, "Oh, I want to meet these guys." I read something bad about Peña, because everything in the Google, almost everything's good about me, but there's a couple of things that aren't so good about me. And so, and the stuff about me being litigious normally makes people a little nervous. But as I point out, I've never sued a bank, so that makes them all feel better. A financial institution, and then they'll come out and they'll say, "Oh, Marcus, how did you meet Dave?" And Marcus will tell them the truth. You met him at a seminar. I wouldn't say, if it was true, I wouldn't say I met him at a Tony Robbins deal or any of the touchy-feely stuff. But I met him at a financial seminar. And Mr. Peña, how did you, I was there, how did you meet Dave? Well, he came to a seminar that I gave at my home in Scotland. We read about those, what kind of people go there? And I said, well, it'd be a banker's paradise, because you could charge all kinds of fees and they don't know any better. And I try to make a joke of it. They say, well, why is it, especially when I'm there, why is it that you feel so strongly about Mikey's deal? That's Mikey. Or Doris's deal. And with Mikey and Doris, I give different answers. Doris, I'd say, she's been successful at it 25, 30 plus years. We've known each other a few years. I mean, she became aware of me 15 years ago. It's now time that I'm in a position where I can really help her. So I've come on as chairman, et cetera, et cetera. Mikey, he's known about me 5-6 years. And he's in a position now where I think same kind of answer. I can help him, and I can and I would tell the bankers I could maybe tame him down a little, because that's what they're going to want to hear, especially if he starts yelling at them. What they don't know is I was just like him when I was young, but I don't bring that up. And let's say it was you, I'd say, I thought I can add value. I'm in the country. once a quarter. I can swing through Florida to see Doris and swing through Nevada to see you. We'd have to get you out of Reno sooner than later, but and they, because I do that all the time. In the old days when I was on a lot of boards, which I'm not anymore, I'm only on a few because I take time off now. I never used to do that. I used to be on 57 boards, 5-7. I was always on a plane. Maybe this is why my wife left me. I was always on a plane. I was always at a board meeting. I used to go Frankfurt, München, Amsterdam, Bremen, Rome, Madrid, London, Edinburgh, Reykjavik, back to London, across to New York, down the East Coast. I was forever on a goddamn plane. Yeah, so they will ask. You can be assured they'll ask. Are you related? They want to make sure that I'm not there because I'm your third uncle. Because all the board members have their reputation at stake. And they want to know that you're there for a legitimate business reason. And more importantly, Dave, what they want to hear is that you believe in the deal. You believe in the deal. And you believe in the deal and you believe in the person. I was on a deal where a German kid was trying to consolidate. Where do you buy bushes and plants and roses? Nursery. We're consolidating nurseries. Nurseries, extremely fragmented business. This was 10 years ago, and but I didn't know anything about nurseries, nothing. And so they, how are you going to bring value? And the Germans ask hard questions. They don't fuck around. They're not there to be my friend. How are you going to bring value to a nursery? And I said, well, the management skills to manage a chain of nurseries is no different than a chain of nursing homes, or a change of restaurants, which is true, isn't it? Now, whether we're buying good bushes or bad bushes, I didn't have a clue. And just the same as when I was in the making the platter deals for wood. Can't even think what they're called now. The thing that I used to make, pallets. I didn't know anything about that either, but I knew the management. The management of the company was all fucked up. They didn't have any numbers. They didn't have any of this. And so, they do ask. But they ask because they want to feel comfortable with the idea that these senior guys, or me in particular, is happy with the deal and happy with the person. And what I tell everybody, and I mean it from the bottom of my heart, no matter what happens, I'll do everything humanly possible to make this deal good. And that's what they want to hear. Because can Dave or Marcus or Mikey make it good? Maybe. Can I make it good? Yeah. And in some cases, like Whipple will attest to, with Lucinda, when Lucinda went sideways and all blew up, he and I moved to Phoenix because I felt it incumbent upon me to try to save everybody's money. I funded it for almost 2 years out of my own pocket because I felt bad because people invested because of me, but we couldn't save it. It was too late, and so we closed it up as best we could. We gave some properties back to the bank. We gave some properties to the investors, and I actually in one little mobile home park we had in Kansas. I can't remember if Bruce went up there to give him his property back because we just couldn't. I said I'm not going to fund it forever. I'll fund it a while, but I'm not going to fund it forever. And we also gave the employees time to find other jobs. So they do ask. Okay, did I answer your question?
Yes, if I may follow up, and so if it fails, what happens then? If the business fails?
If the business fails, a number of things fail. If the business fails, the bank will look to whoever signed the documents. If you guarantee it, I don't guarantee any debt, so I'm not going to, they will, normally the founders, they expect the founders to guarantee debt, not me. And when we talk about debt, I'll give you my opinion about that later. The shares of the company that fails are worth nothing. I mean, if you unfortunately have to give the company back to the bank, or we liquidate the company, or we put the company into one of the two, either Chapter 7 or Chapter 11. Chapter 1 is total liquidation and one's reorganization. Depending on the circumstance, I mean, Bruce and I have stayed around, as I just give the example, for almost 2 years, and try to resurrect it, to leave the field of battle with honor, so to speak, after we had raised all that money. In other cases, I mean, we're not that far along, because let's say, we've had, the founder gets cancer, the founder's wife dies, and he just wants to retire. He doesn't want to have anything to do with business, or the founder's son's daughter gets sick, and he wants to spend the last few months or years with his grandchild, and so he just walks away from the business. If we can find a buyer for it, we do. If sometimes we've sold assets back to the employees. Dave wants out. He's going back to Mother Russia, and he says, we do an ESOP, which is a plan where the employees buy the assets from the founder. There's a lot of different ways. We don't walk away and leave everybody in the dirt. We have founders that have walked away and just left everybody fucked up. Absolutely. They just go, like Pontius Pilate did to Christ, and they walk out the door. And they said, Dan, you don't have to stay here. I said, well, I feel obligated. A lot of these people came to work for us because of me.
What would you say is the ratio overall of people, of companies that you were chairman of, that failed versus the ones that succeeded?
95.5. 95.5. And in those 5%, it's always the founder did something stupid. Because as a minority shareholder, Dave, I can't make anybody do anything. You can't keep putting, $350,000 a month in your pocket. We got to pay taxes. I don't care what your little phony bookkeeper says, for an example. Okay? And Robert and I have known a couple of phony bookkeepers in our time. Normally illegal aliens. We get, and illegal being illegal now is a big deal.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean now, these people running for Congress and Senate and Governor, how you could possibly have, if you're the president, you're CEO of Hewlett Packard, I think that's the one that had an illegal,
Meg Whitman.
eBay.
Yeah.
How? What can you possibly be thinking? You're the CEO of a big company like that, obviously smart as anything, because people make mistakes. And now we overlook, we tend to overlook the not so obvious. I don't overlook the not so obvious. I don't. And that's because I've been around a million years and I've been involved in thousands of things. And even though I know Benedict may tell me this is what's going to happen, and I know Benedict doesn't really have any control over anything, that's his best intention. That's great. Or Marcus tells me that's his best intention. And having done a lot of business, and I'm just attaching you to Bavaria for right now, and having done a lot of business in Bavaria, and been in a lot of guest houses, and had a lot of schnitzel, and a lot of fucking beer, and schnapps, best intentions are what the road to hell's paved with. The road to hell. And, I'm going to, start working with Doris, and I'm looking forward to it. I know Florida. I know Orlando. I know her business. I know her. We'll make mistakes, but not the ones she's made in the past. I can guarantee that for sure, absolutely. But there'll be other mistakes, and I know her business, and so it's everything's a risk. There's no guarantees. And as Robert said his story, and Robert knows 20 or 30 stories that we've been together, that I've been involved with, maybe more than 20, 30. And but some people just go off the rails. They just go off the fucking rails. I don't know why they go off the rails, and I know in my heart it's self-sabotaging because they don't think they deserve the success. You know, they don't think they deserve the success. Why am I, you know, here doing this good stuff when I'm just a dirtbag? You know, even though some go to good schools, some go to no schools. You know, some are super smart. Some are average intelligence. Some have, you know, raped and beaten by their parents, and some had, you know, ministers for parents, and, you know, they did everything right. Some, it depends. Success is a funny thing. You know, everybody says they want it, and everybody says, I'll do whatever it takes to get it. Most won't do whatever it takes to get it, and some, when they have it, they say, fuck. You know, I'm always at work. I'm not there to see my kids. I'm not there to see my wife. You know, I think my wife's having an affair with somebody because I'm home 3 days a month. And I'm not justifying the wives that do that, but I certainly know plenty of them that do. I'm gone, 3 weeks a month, and the guy goes to, uses prostitutes while he's on the road. I'm not saying that's good either, but I know why they do it. And, I drink too much on the road. And there's all kinds of factors that, that blend in. When you meet Bruce later today, he's a different personality than I am. He's Mr. Clean. I certainly don't purport to be any Mr. Clean. And I'm certainly not without sin. He's as close to being without sin as you're going to get for a guy in his 50s that has been around. He's as close as you're going to get. Not many cleaner than him. So when we stick the Whipple on you, when you see Whipple, if I'm the chairman and a shareholder and you see Whipple walk through the door, your days are numbered. Because I don't have time to clean up the shit, and so I put the Whipple on him. I Whippleize him.
How old was he when you met him?
38, 39. And I always ask, Bruce, can we get out of this with dignity? No, Dan. How much money are we going to lose? It's too early to tell. Is anything illegal? Not sure, but I think so. Oh, fuck. I said, okay. Well, anyway, keep me in the loop and let me know. And because he's done that before, or he says, I think we can save it. I think we can, but we got to get rid of we got to retire so and so. Because some people, when they get real successful, time they come in, they go berserk. They go nuts. I've seen guys in Moscow. I went to Moscow with this guy I was in business with. This guy was not a Seventh-day Adventist, not. They go to church on Saturday. Is that Seventh-day? Anyway, they go to church on Saturday, and he wouldn't fly on Saturday. He wouldn't work on Saturday. So ostensibly, we're guests of the Russian government, Moscow. This was about 97, 98. And he's the same religion. The guys, the two brothers that make the glasses, Bond or make sunglasses. Ray-Ban. Whatever those guys are, he's that religion. Okay, so I get there a couple days early. He gets there, and we're there at breakfast, and they have these short glasses. And I thought they're water, and I didn't know they were vodka. Anyway, so about a little short. So I go like this. I go, I go, what the fuck? And my two Russian partners just laugh. And so I promised my wife that I was going to go to the Bolshoi Ballet. No matter what, I was going to go. And of course, I didn't go. And I went to a bathhouse that was turned into a restaurant. It used to be Lenin's bathhouse. Drunk and caviar all over my body and all fucked up beyond recognition. And the first couple of days, he's looking at me and says, "Oh, Dan, I can't do that." He used to pray every day and all that. By the 6th, 7th, or 8th day, he's shooting vodka shooters down with, also at breakfast, some of the most beautiful women in the world I ever saw in a restaurant. They're hookers. They come out early. They catch it early there at the Metropole Hotel. And by the 6th, 7th, and 8th day, and he was a religious guy, a pious guy, but by the time we left, he certainly wasn't pious. And we had suites down from each other, and the doors open out in that hotel. So I'm trying to get my key in the door like this, and I finally get, and I'm pushing and yanking, and I yanked it right into my head, and knocked me out, and I fell down on the floor. And so two of the hookers that were walking up and down the halls come running. I don't think they were going to take my wallet. Maybe they were.
And so security thought they were going to take my wallet for sure. And so they come there, there's a big scene, and so he comes in, this is in the beginning of the trip, while he was still pious. And, oh, are you all right, Dan? And should I call a priest or a doctor? And no, I just got a big lump on my head. And so, but by the last couple days of the trip, he was human. He was more than human. And so, and he basically, then we had the trouble with the Russian mafia and all that. And so, but his wife was glad to see him out of Russia. And so, you don't know how you're going to react. You really don't. The fact that you're in there with the crooks in Reno, I have a feeling I know how you'll react, but I could be wrong. I could be wrong. Everybody reacts to success differently, but almost everybody reacts to failure the same. Not that many people pick themselves back up, get knocked down, pick yourself up, got knocked down, pick yourself up, get knocked down, pick yourself up. That's great in rhetoric, and that's great in a poem, but in true life, normally people, it takes them weeks, people go through depression. I've seen people that got super successful that got depressed, making $1 million a month. How in the fuck can you get depressed? I've seen it. I've absolutely seen it, I can see depression from when you're going $1 million a month down to nothing. Now, if I was ever going to get depressed, that'd be it. It wouldn't be because I was making $1 million a month. And some people, your families aren't looking for you to be successful. They want you to stay right where you are. Making pizzas or whatever. I've given you the role-playing outline. Okay, knock knock.
This is under a few assumptions that he can make a decision without
He's
his father. He's done these deals before.
Yep.
And he's ready to go on enable.
Correct.
How you doing?
See you again.
How are you?
Excellent. How are you?
Good, thank you. Thanks for coming to my office.
Oh, fantastic.
How can I help you?
Okay, so first of all, congratulations on Paranormal.
Thank you.
Biggest success since ever. The marketing campaign. Brilliant. Jackass 3D. You heard about Jackass 3D?
Yep.
Yeah. Gigantic. On the comedy end of the spectrum. That's the kind of films that we're making right now.
Good.
Everything exponentially cheaper, exponentially better.
Okay.
And right now what we're looking to do is we're looking to put together $100 million to create 40 films for next year alone. And how much money you spend your last film? Jackass 3D? What was that? 60 million?
60 million.
Yeah. We're only looking for 100 for 40 million.
Okay.
So that's something that you're interested in?
Possibly, yes. I'd like to see how we can help you.
Give me the money.
Tell me more about your business model.
Well, the
Have you ever
business
made a
model
business
is
before?
we're not looking to make money.
Okay.
We're looking to get rich.
Okay.
So much money you have to wait. You see a picture of your kid right there and you're holding on your hip?
Mm-hmm.
Not only you're going to put him through college, but he's going to put his kid through college while he's holding his on his hip.
Good. Good.
That's
well,
the kind of
we're, I know that a lot of banks are in trouble, but we've got a lot of money.
They're in trouble because they're not making deals with me.
We're loaning, so we'd love to, see how we can work together.
I saw those ads that you put all over on billboards all over the neighborhood.
Okay.
I know you're loaning.
Yeah, we're loaning, and we'd love to get, help you grow in any way we can. Can you tell me a little bit about your management?
Management?
Yeah.
Key players.
Okay.
Best of the best of all of Los Angeles. Attorneys, accountants. Those are the guys that I really don't care about. I got the filmmakers. I got all the vendor relationships. I have the casting crew relationships, talent agents, managers, from Jim Belushi to freaking Brad Pitt to whoever the hell you think that you want to put in those films.
Yeah.
Done and done.
Can you tell me some of the, successes that some of these people have had?
Who? Brad Pitt?
Besides Brad Pitt, but
Oh, Robert Rodriguez?
the management team that you have in your company.
Robert Rodriguez made a movie for $25,000 and put a return on investment of about $100 million on that film.
So is he
And
working under
doing
you?
it
or
consistently.
is he-
People in his team, yes, in his organization.
Okay.
We're all working very closely together.
Okay. So what is the business relationship that you folks have?
I call them, they come over now.
Okay. So they're contractors.
Everybody's an independent contractor.
Okay. Good. Good. Where are some of the? Are you guys incorporated already, or you have
Well, the actual organization is incorporated, yeah, but each project has its own structure.
Okay.
Let's say we have to make one film in Michigan. I gotta go over there for the 42%. Great. I get 42% just for being there.
Okay.
Brick and mortar.
Okay.
And then for the cast Let's say they pay for themselves. I go to France, I go to Tribeca, I go to Sundance, I pre-sell all these actors, and get another 40%. 18% gap, fill it in, a couple dollars within the fund that we have, it's done.
So let's say each film is a project, so each project is a
Self-contained entity.
Self-contained entity.
Correct.
Okay, good. And where are you incorporating these entities?
Where? Right now?
Well, I mean, that you are they?
The parent company?
Yeah,
That's
sure.
Delaware.
Are you operating out of a single entity, and that those entities, each project you have has a sub-entity? Is that how it works, or how are you? I'm trying to understand.
Well,
the
there's a
structure.
parent company, and then each one is a subsidiary of those companies.
Okay.
So there's a lot of backtracking,
Okay.
but they're all pretty much under one corporate umbrella.
Okay. So, and you're the principal of this.
Unless you guys would like to restructure it if you want to use the money.
Well, we'll consider that. Are you the principal of this company?
Dan Peña is. You have to call him.
Okay. Okay. Good.
He makes all the big money decisions.
Okay. So is he on the board or?
He's the chairman.
He's the chairman. Okay. Very good. Very good. Can you tell me a little bit about Dan Peña? I don't know him.
You don't know Dan Peña?
No, I'm sorry, I don't.
Well, ask your brother about him. I don't really want to talk.
That's a good answer.
Very, very personal relationship with them where he's eaten your brother's lunch a couple of times. So if you really want to give him a call and talk to him, you're more than happy to. I'll give you his direct number.
Okay. Well, and you sent me his background info.
Yeah, it was the one that was 105 pages that you didn't want to go through.
Okay. Very good. Very good. All right. Well, tell me about some of the projections that you plan to make with this business.
Projections. I have one film specifically, just like in the realms of Jackass 3D, the paranormal. It hits the independent market.
Mhm.
MTV, the last 10 years,
Mhm.
high. Why? These kids don't know what the fuck they want.
Mhm.
All they do is watch MTV all day. Jackass 3D, paranormal, Jersey Shore. You familiar with Jersey Shore?
Yes, I know.
Fist pumping?
Yes.
Yeah, I got this pizza boy in New York, and I got a film student. Guess what? They went off to make a movie. They don't know what the hell they're doing, just like every other kid in the face of this planet.
Mhm.
They don't know what they're doing, but they
Right.
want to do something.
Right.
These guys, just like Dan Peña, they just took action. They woke up, went, failed. It's called falling upwards. The more you fail, you're still going upwards.
Okay. So if I'm hearing you correctly, you're having students or people who have never made a film before get involved into business, into your business to making films. You want me to pay for those films?
No, not at all. Everybody's exponentially freaking more, how do you say, experienced than anybody you've ever worked with in Universal, Paramount, Sony. Those guys are freaking number crunchers. They never made a film in their goddamn life. They can't even spell film. We're the guys who make the films.
Okay.
Develop,
Yeah,
pre-production,
but
physical
they're
production.
distributing your film, but
Yeah, they're just
but
distributing
in
it.
terms of making the film.
I create the deals.
You create the deal. So
We make them, we create them.
Okay, so you've got your team of lighting, sound, and actors, and so forth, right? And you're putting that together.
I have a community that I can tap into of the most successful people
Okay.
of all.
And you've got people to sell your film,
Yeah.
which are your contacts at Universal and so forth.
If I decide to go that route, I'm creating my own distribution outlet, so where if I don't want to, if the deal's not good enough, I'll distribute it myself.
How far along is that?
That was being created right now.
Okay. How
As you
far?
can tell, the digital era, we can do anything we want.
Mhm.
There's no more, oh, I need your TV station. I don't fucking need you anymore. I'll create my own website, like Funny or Die. Are you familiar with Funny Die or Adam.com?
Yes.
Take money.
So how much time is it going to take to create a distribution network?
I'll call my engineer right now and open it up. That's how long. All I gotta do is purchase some servers so I can hold the content, host my own content,
Uh-huh.
put on my own advertisers, and that's it.
So what kind of reach will you have with this distribution company?
Only the world.
The world. Okay.
Maybe, they just recently found gold and silver on another planet.
Oh,
On the
okay.
moon, you know that, right?
Water, I believe.
Water, gold, silver,
Mhm.
everything.
Okay.
They found everything.
Good. Good.
Isn't that exciting?
That's exciting.
I'm looking to
love-
purchase some property
I
there
think
already.
your business would be more exciting if you tell me how we can make some money.
Advertising? So, wait, you are the person who gave up the money for Paranormal and Jackass 3D.
Correct. And I'd love to give that money to you if you could tell me how I can make money too.
That's how you make the money.
Okay. So how are you going to make money from this business? Please tell me.
By creating the content cheaper, faster, and better than any doofus you know.
Okay. So how are you going to do that?
I made a $60 million movie that the studios had for $15 million.
Okay. And you've done that already.
Also in love.
Okay.
I just made a $3.5 million movie for $185,000.
Okay, and you've been able to sell it
Yeah.
through.
Well, we have 4 distributors interested. We don't want any to get deals until the American film market opens up next month.
And you're planning to not go through them, but create your own distribution channel?
No, we don't want to create our own distribution. We just want to sell that one off.
Okay.
And
Well, let's talk
we
about
haven't created our own library due to we haven't went out and reached for this kind of entity yet. We're creating the first of its kind.
Okay. How much money do you need?
50 million, 100 million
What are you going to use it for?
to create content, own the content, create our own library so we can keep revenues coming in and out.
Okay. And $50 million, usually we loan out with some kind of...
You can make $50 million on half a movie, by the way. You know that, not even a full movie.
So give me out $50 million. What can we securitize on? Do you have any
Nothing.
assets? So this would be an unsecured loan.
1,000%.
Okay.
This is the movie business, you know?
Right.
One day you go on set and
So are you willing to, you or have any of the other principals put in a personal guarantee for the loan?
no,
So there's a good amount of risk here, I see.
good amount of risk. What risk?
Well,
How many people do you know can make 40 films next year for $200,000 each to $500,000, but the value brings it to $5 to $15 million based on the personal relationships, the vendor relationships from the camera, the grip electric lighting. All these places are empty. How many fucking people are using this equipment? Come here tomorrow.
Okay.
I'll walk you into grip electric lighting, and you'll see 90% of the places full. The camera houses want to give them to me like this. Mikey, take my cameras. I gotta pay for hard drives. I gotta pay for some office space. And you know what? I might even have to pay for office space. You know why?
Why?
Because they're empty.
Mhm.
I'm not giving a percentage of the deal.
Okay.
1 to 2%, depending.
So how much are you giving away from your bottom line?
How much am I giving away? It depends on how much they have to do the deal.
Like for example, your rent and cameras and you said
Yes.
there's empty spaces in studios.
Would you rather give away 7% of the film or lose another $5 million?
Okay, that makes sense. I understand.
I'm not a studio, and I'm not gonna make a $25 million movie, but I could do it for $600,000.
Okay. All right, that makes sense.
Christina Ricci, we gave her $1 million for our film. Right now, she's in fucking Michigan making a movie for an ultra low budget for $120 a day. What the fuck does that tell you about 2010?
Well, there's a huge opportunity now. There's a lot of availability for actors and studios and camera crews and stuff.
Yeah, and everybody else is gonna keep paying those.
Mhm.
Not me. It's not gonna happen.
Okay, so we're lending, like I said. I'd like to see. Obviously, we'll have to do some due diligence.
What due diligence, such as?
Well, I'd like to take a look at some of the.
Take a look at your numbers of Jackass 3D
Mhm.
and Paranormal,
Mhm.
because I just stole Amy Powell,
Okay.
and I know you know who she is. She created all the social media marketing campaign. We have Facebook applications being created. We have Facebooks with applications on the Facebook to the Twitter. We got Flowtown that's hitting 200 million plus users through every digital outlet with add-ons. FinStream owns add-ons.
Right.
Add-ons, anybody can add on.
Have you signed any contracts with
No.
your
Anybody.
any opportunity? Are you creating your own scripts, your own ideas for these movies? Or
We own
you
everything.
own them. Okay,
We
so
own everything.
and you have some ideas already in the pipeline.
Hundreds of scripts.
Hundreds of scripts.
And it's all based on specific genres. We're gonna hit all the genres.
Okay.
Horror, comedy, romantic comedies, go
And
go
you
out
want,
and have fun.
but you
with
want to
your
do
girlfriend.
40.
Excuse me?
You have hundreds, but you want to do out of that hundreds, you want to do 40. Now with the 50 million.
We'll probably end up doing 60.
Okay. How many films can you get with the $50 million? Meaning.
Well, it depends because when I say films, I mean webisodes. I mean TV shows that are webisodes now.
Okay.
I don't need a fucking $1 million to do an episode. I have a whole 12 series webisode that I'm going to be doing. Fuck your TV. It's on your computer. That's a new television show.
So this is not a per project loan. This is a loan for your entire.
Yes,
Yeah.
so whatever the hell I want it for.
Okay,
Yeah.
we've gone far enough. Benjamin, and you make a pretty good banker. I mean,
He's cool. I like it.
you make a pretty good banker because you were asking the right kind of questions.
Okay.
And you kept trying to get back, focus down, focus down, focus down. And I say this tongue-in-cheek only because I love you guys and your dad, but those are the same kind of questions you need to ask your dad. There are people that get presentations just like Mikey did, okay? And Benjamin asked the right kind of questions, and Mikey's first presentation was based on bravado. If you don't give me money, you're a fucking idiot, more or less. And he did well by going back and relating to 2 or 3 movies I never heard of myself. Paranormal, I think I heard of, but Jackass, I never heard of that. Anyway. And obviously, if he was the lender, if Benjamin was the lender, I'm going to be just like these guys. And that's what you do. You relate back to this. I used to relate back to the what's the big storage, public storage story. The public storage story was one of the great entrepreneur stories of the late 80s and early 90s. And it was a guy who came to Arthur Andersen with no money and told them that he was going to develop what was called a hub and spoke concept of distribution, meaning the main office would be within 200 miles of each one of the stores, so we could reduce management, because normally those public storage or any storage facility has its own management. But this way, one management team is going to be able to cover 20, 30 units and cut the administrative cost by 29 30ths. And so when I went into Arthur Andersen, I used that. And everybody, what I didn't know when I was using it in the Los Angeles office of Arthur Andersen is that the team that had started Arthur Andersen was in that room, started public storage. They were the guys. And I didn't know that. So I'm flapping my mouth, and we had a bunch. And I wondered why are there 13 guys in this goddamn room? All these guys. We were in a big conference from downtown Los Angeles, and but in the executive summary, we had put we were going to follow the hub and spoke, in parentheses, public storage model. Everybody and his dick were there because they had been the ones that funded that model. And the first year, the audit fees for public storage was $7,000, which they didn't have any money to pay. And now, and this is a long time ago, their audit fees were $25 million a year. So, I mean, I got lucky, you know, because you want to tell a story and you want to link it to something else that everybody knows about. So Mikey did well in that part, okay? But in further presentations, and what I would have done is, you know, you got the executive summary, but I brought this along, and I'd show whatever that Jackass movie was or whatever thing, little bit of investment, big revenue, and the paranormal one, little bit of investment, revenue, big revenue, and you, how much money did you make on that, Benjamin? They won't tell you, but how much money, you know, and the fees and this and that. So I would link it. I wouldn't make it part of my thing that I sent him, but I would certainly, if those were the facts, I'd bring it along. Then I'd keep it. I wouldn't let them have it. They keep it because visually you want them to lock in, you know. But going forward, Mikey will have to have some more detail, not a great deal more detail, maybe 10-20% more detail, so they could, as they're taking notes, they can go Google something. You can't just sell everything on a dream and a rainbow, but you can certainly use some of that dream and rainbow, and relating yourself back to those successful deals is the right way to go. Good first attempt. Again, Benjamin, you might have a second calling. I'm not wishing this on you as a banker, but they did a good job. And remember, it's the first time you do this. And I used to dry my hands like this before I went in the room. So when I shook hands, my hands weren't wet, perspiring. I used to jump up and down outside the hall. I'd jump up and down to get my blood going. So when I walked in, you know, slap my cheeks. So it wasn't just like another presentation. Every presentation you're going to make is, this is life or death. This is life or death. This is it. And Mikey would probably have gone in with his CFO or another guy on the board that is from the business. So when Mikey says,
Would it be okay to relate to them to be like, they say numbers, you go, boom, what's the number?
Yeah.
Awesome. Then you know,
Yeah, absolutely.
You show them.
And Jackass, and he says, and then the guy that knows about Jackass, which I asked Robert, I never heard of this fucking Jackass. Anyway, so he,
Every record.
okay,
Last
so he can, the other person can relate to substantiate, validate, underscore what Mikey said. And then Mikey goes on and sells a little more, and then when Benjamin asked a question, then he said, and then turn to the guy and said, oh yeah, and him to fill in the numbers. And from somebody that's credible. Not, and I say this with the greatest respect, not Falvo or, somebody that's credible.
Mhm.
And that's how it works. And you got to make a lot of presentations. And the first few you won't be as good, but by the time you give a few, you'll be very good. And I used to make a guarantee, and I'm not sure if I mentioned it to you guys. If you make 2 presentations to different institutions a week, and you don't raise the money in 6 months, then I'll go raise you the money. Because if you make 26 presentations, I assure you, by about the 10th or 15th, you're really good at it. And when we talk about how to milk the financial institutions for the information, so you're not guaranteed, because there is no guarantee.
Is it okay to put a pit bull in there to be like, because I've actually used that methodology with Michael Mendelson. He's an animal, a beast. People are fucking terrified of him to go into his office, to call him or anything. So one time they're like, oh, I see you have Michael Mendelson here. I go, yeah, give him a call, ask him about Mikey. And they go, they understand.
No, sure. But, and see, and again, he's a beast. All these guys that are successful are beasts. They may be quiet beasts, like Henry Kissinger. Everybody know who Henry Kissinger is?
Mm-hmm.
Former Secretary of State, the German. I mean, he's Austrian. Okay. But they're still beasts. There is no soft shoe, I'm okay, you're okay, hug and kisses, touchy-feely, floppy-woppy guys. They're all tough as fucking nails. And the successful women are tougher than the guys. Tougher. They're just ball busters. And in years gone by, they had to be tougher to get up to the top of the corporations because of all the other, hurdles that guys put in front of women. But now there's women that are heads of CEOs of companies, and the California politics shows it. The people running for governor and running for senator. So now that was a good first effort, and we'll see how we improve. Any questions from Benjamin or from what Mikey said?
Would you go in and use that kind of language and so forth when you're...
Well, in his industry, yeah. But I've sworn in the presentations, and if I get an obnoxious question, I'll say, who the fuck are you? I've done that. I haven't made any pitches in the entertainment industry. I only lost money in the entertainment
I
industry.
feel low energy just for sitting down. I wouldn't even sit. I would stand up for a while and then show that I can...
Yeah, I made presentations just standing up
Yeah.
because I'm especially when I was younger, I was hyped up, and they always say, "Please sit down, Mr. Peña." No, I've just been sitting 7 hours on a plane. That's what my normal answer is. I just 7 hours, and or 27 hours on the plane, depending on where I came from. But now when I fly in from Shanghai or Manila, or even Scotland, and I'm meeting in Los Angeles. It demands more respect. This fucker came all the way here. This guy that's done $80 billion, all these jillions of dollars in deals, and he came here. And so, and I take advantage of it. I leverage off that. Now I leverage a little off that I'm old, and although I don't feel old, but I leverage off of it. Because you're trying to put all the positives you can in your corner. All. And it's tough when you're 28 years old and you got no gray hair and you kind of look like a doofus to them. I mean, it's all young kids look the same. They do. I grew a mustache when I was a kid to look older. And there's a couple pictures around the castle someplace when I was in the gym when I was in Sports Illustrated, 1977. I was 31 or 32 years old. There's a picture as you walk into the gym. There's a door to walk out of the gym. Just on the right-hand side down there, there's a picture of me when I'm 32 years old in the Sports Illustrated. And I had long hair that came over my ears, and I had a mustache. and my hair was kind of brownish blonde in those days. But my mother said that, she didn't like me with a mustache. She wanted me to look like a baby always. And so I did not. And one of the reasons that I started dressing like an investment banker very young in my career is because I was stationed with NATO in Europe, and I saw how the Europeans dressed. And in those days, everybody dressed, suit and tie and that kind of thing. And so when I came back from the service and then I went back to school, I just assumed that, I'd look older if I dressed. And certainly nobody ever showed up with, even in the movie business, nobody showed up in jeans to meetings and shit. That's just recent years. That's 10 or 15 years.
Nobody wears suits up there anymore, except for
No, I know, but I mean, and when I was in the movie business, and from 79 to 82, or 78 to 82, I mean, guys wore suits. I mean, it was really considered cavalier to just wear a sports coat and a shirt. I mean, you were really far out. You were successful, but far out, because everybody else wore suits. But the world's changed, and I understand that. But my advice is the young people, except for maybe in the movie business, I mean, you dress for success. You dress for success. And the simpler, the better. We talk a little bit about that, I think, later today. Okay, any other questions? Okay.
Is it okay to man yourself up? Because I used to be always clean shaven. I look 23. I look like a fucking infant myself, even though I am.
Yeah, but I mean, it's now a
I've
lot
had
of
to
people.
grow this out just so.
Yeah, a lot of people that do the stubble,
I've had
you know, and
It's a tactic
stubble's,
for me, actually.
yeah, stubble's okay.
Put a little
Okay.
white in it.
Hmm?
Put a little white in it.
Yeah, well, that was, and I wasn't gray, and all of a sudden I turned gray. I mean, so, and they're looking for gray hair, and you don't have it, so somebody better fucking have it. Gray hair and wrinkles is okay, and since you don't have it, then somebody better have it. And my recommendation is, when we're talking about the board, your CFO and CEO ought to have gray hair and wrinkles. I mean, the people that represent the company. Now, I know that Facebook and all these, the Google type companies all have young kids. They have young kids, and obviously Google, the founders are young, and Facebook, they're all young guys. But normally, the guys that are in charge of the money aren't young. They're old and gray. They want somebody, it's like when on the movie The Apprentice with Trump, the guy that sits on his right hand or his left hand side, the old lawyer, the old gray-haired lawyer guy, who's written a book now. And he was Trump's, as I understand it, was Trump's daddy's lawyer. So a lot of people say that he's the real brains behind the company. I don't know if that's true or not, because Donald's a pretty smart guy. Went to Wharton School of Business at University of Pennsylvania, got his MBA. Smart guy. Okay, we've done that. Get the food. We're going to have more role plays.
I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
If, let's say you form the company and you've got your board, or at least a chairman, a good chairman with gray hair, and you've got your numbers guy, or your CFO, whatever you want to call him, and your CTO or technologies guy who understands whatever, the product that you have. And let's say it's my team, right? And I'm the main guy pitching, but I don't have gray hair. I'm representing the company. I can't be a CFO, so I've got to hire a CFO.
Get your brother as treasurer. I think that he's got experience as treasurer.
So if I'm the main guy pitching, what does that make me? I mean, am I the majority?
Oh no. Okay.
Right, because usually the CEO makes
Correct.
the head of the.
And you don't have to be CEO. I mean, I know guys that just have a title like Dave from Wendy's, founder,
Right.
or co-founder, or whatever you were,
Okay.
or chief strategy officer, or chief at Orange. We did some work for Orange Telephone, which was the fastest growing telephonic company in Europe, in the world, 10 years ago, and they were acquired by French Telecom. And they had an ambassador of goodwill officer, and they had all this shit. And we said on yellow those big round things, these cushions, big yellow yellow orange bean bags, and everybody was walking around in Jesus clothes. And as soon as the French took over, and I told them they wanted me to be in charge of their take over as chairman of their investment fund. They had a 500 million euro fund, and I looked at the first three investments, which were just shit. They paid 67 million for one that was worth about 2 million. They paid 14 or 15 million that wasn't worth anything, and they paid 80 or 90 million for something that was worth 3 or 4 million. And so I looked at this, and these were all young kids. These were all young MBA hotshot kids that didn't know shit. And so they said, you know, our chairman is negotiating with the French Telecom. I said, well, is there any serious chance of this going through? He says, yeah. I said, well, then, we shouldn't waste any more time me talking to you guys because, the French guys aren't going to want me here, and the French guys aren't going to want you here. They all looked at me and says, well, I don't understand. What's going to happen, just like when the Japanese acquire you, they're going to have somebody sit right across from Doris, watching every fucking thing she does for 3, 4, 5, 6 months, and then fire her. If Doris isn't doing much, they'll fire her in 3 or 4 weeks. If Doris is really important, she may last 6 months, maybe a year, then they'll fire her. But until the French guy or the Japanese guy feels comfortable that he can tell Mama-san or Papa-san upstairs that I can handle the job, then they get rid of him. And they say, oh, no, we have agreement. Well, they got bought by French Telecom, and within weeks, the first guy left. The guy that was in charge of the fund that had made these not so great investments, or at least part of the team that made these not so great investments.
When you say team, are you talking to like the founders, or are you talking to the decision makers, or are you talking to the hierarchy? It's like
in which instance?
Like when you were speaking to the person about the deals that they actually put that money towards.
No. These were the guys that were in charge of the investment fund at Orange Telecom.
But they had CEOs.
Oh yeah, they had a CEO.
So they're in charge.
That was one of the leading CEOs of Europe. He wore Jesus clothes, robes and shit.
Of the fund?
Yeah, no, he was in charge. CEO of the big company, Telco. And when the French took over, they threw everybody out. And even though they had agreements, there's always some paragraph in there. Subject to, if so-and-so does anything that might be detrimental to the image of French Teleco or to Orange or to the human race or whatever, you're out. And so they all got ousted.
So just like in his instance and my instance, we would be the faces of our company, but have the dream team actually doing things.
Just founders or co-founders, whatever you call it.
So let's say I'm making a pitch. Would I be making? I would be making the pitch,
Yeah.
probably, right? And then
Even though he has a CEO, CFO.
Yeah, he might be there with a CEO. He might be there with a CFO. He might be there with both.
Yeah.
But don't overwhelm the people. Don't come in with a room full of goddamn people.
Right.
You always want to have less people than they've got. And that's why you always ask, who's going to be in attendance? The meeting is a week from Tuesday. You don't ask this. Your assistant. If you don't have an assistant, you're going to have an alter ego, somebody else's name. Okay, my alter ego used to be Stephen. Okay, Stephen's asking just to reconfirm our meeting from a week from Thursday at 10 a.m. in the Plaza Hotel in New York City. Who will be in attendance to discuss, a subject, to discuss this, and who will be in attendance? And they come back to you. John Clark, the head of energy financing, Yodel and Doofus Rufus. Okay, and you want their title and what they do. And then you said, okay, Dan Peña will be there, Charlie Soliday, and Jesus Christ, or whoever. Okay, and you send an agenda. Your agenda. Well, they should ask for an agenda, but I don't know. A lot of kids don't ask for agendas anymore. I don't want to have a meeting. I don't have a conference call. Let's have an agenda. I want to know what the hell we're going to talk about.
Right.
I don't need the specifics. Some people, Sally likes specifics of the agenda. Okay, because I don't need the specifics because I can talk about almost anything. But you want an agenda, and then they should ask, are there any special requirements? That means
Wheelchairs.
Wheelchairs. Are you going to need video shipped or any equipment?
Translators.
Yeah, translators. But the interesting thing about it, that a lot of that has fallen away in the 21st century.
Okay.
The young guys don't. They just assume everybody's got a laptop, everybody's got this, everybody, and the older guys don't come to meetings with laptops. I sure shit don't. Okay, and so I would give them the courtesy, if you need anything. But they should be asking you if you have any requirements. And if you're going to eat, they should be asking you, is there any dietary requirements? And
I've usually just sent the material. For example, there's a PowerPoint. I've usually just sent it out in digital format and tell them to print it for their people.
Yeah, well, that's fine.
Ready, right? Exactly.
That's fine. You have to, because if you're seeing 20 institutions, you got a whole suitcase full of just
Right.
folders.
Yeah.
Let them send it to them.
Okay.
And I've even said, pay if you have the time, please pay particular attention to section 3, 4, and 6A1. And those are normally the numbers, the rates of return, etc.
Okay.
Because you want to accomplish as much as humanly possible at the meeting. Not the first meeting. The first meeting is you're interviewing, you're there to see if there's any chemistry, or I say in tongue in cheek, or let lack there with Dave, any chemistry with these guys. Okay. And they'll often say, and again, as you're walking to the door, if I'm there at the elevator, and Doris is behind me, and the guy will say, is Mr. Peña planning on attending all the meetings? And he'll say, no, he lives in Asia, and he just wanted to be here for the introduction. And they go, and it just, that's the way it is. Which is fine with me, because I don't want to go to any more meetings anyway.
Right. So typically, when we've made presentations, the first meeting may be a teleconference. I don't know if you recommend that or not. And number two,
it depends how soon you need to do it, because, like I'm only in the U.S. once a quarter.
Right.
And you don't want to wait till I'm going to come into the U.S.
Right.
So teleconferencing works well.
Right. And
but I mean the real telecon, not the kind that's on a laptop. I mean the real teleconferencing. Yeah.
Yeah. So usually there's an introductory meeting without the deep, specific details.
Correct.
'Cause that's the second meeting, right?
Correct.
So
That's if there is a second meeting.
Right.
If there's no second meeting, because let's say that you're all banks, and we have a first meeting with each one of them, and I decide that Marcus and Dave are our best bets, and then you write a nice email. I don't write such nice emails, but Jeremy and Sally, they write, they're British. They write nice emails and say, we don't think that, the fit's right, or some bullshit like that.
They got a program for that now, Dan. When you write, it eases it up for you.
Yeah. Okay.
It takes
Because
words out.
I used to hit the computer so hard I had black and blue marks on the end of my fingers because I thought you had.
If your sentence sounds mean, it changes it to make it sound lighter.
Okay. Well, I don't know. And of course, just because mine's in capital and red doesn't mean I'm yelling at you. But if I'm going to yell at you, I'll pick up the phone and yell at you. I don't need to do it on a computer. But
so that means, since you don't need to get into the specifics, because when I normally bring the numbers guy or the technology guy, I assume that because I would refer to them for the specifics.
the Bert and Ernie, when you bring the Bert and Ernie.
Right. When I bring the Bert and Ernie. So would I need them for the first meeting?
No, you need somebody else with you.
Okay.
You need
Sure.
somebody, because even though you're there in an interviewing mode, you want to. If they do have if half of the deal and they've done their homework, they're going to have questions, and they will feel. Bless you. They will feel like you're shining them on if you just walk out the door.
But of course, you should let them know that you have them who's available to answer the questions.
Correct. And so you bring somebody that
Who would you recommend?
Well, you should bring a board member because they want to be able to see the commitment of the board member.
Not your hot girlfriend.
No, not your hot girlfriend. Or the girl that's on the front of that picture that you sent me about your car. 100 million.
Or unless it's a top-notch actress.
Well, she says, if you can get a top-notch actress, say, I'll make any movie Mikey wants me to. Dan, that's good. That's good. But I mean, other than that, you know, I mean, my recommendation is don't ping. I used to have a really hot girl, a lady partner, and I was in Pennsylvania, and and I was young, and we had 2 meetings that day, and I didn't want to have to send the car back and get her, so I brought her to the first meeting, even though she wasn't supposed to be until the second meeting, and they were affronted. You know, even though she was part of my business, she wasn't part of that business, and they were funded. Like I brought her just because they wanted to Google over her. They did not Google in the sense of type, but drool over her. They did drool over her, but I mean that's not why I brought her at all.
Right.
And so I learned a lesson. I was young then, and so I didn't try to save on the cab the next time. I just told her, I'll meet you there.
So it didn't hurt. I mean,
No, it did hurt. We didn't do any business. We didn't do any business. I don't know if that were what was the reason, but I certainly thought, I thought it was a slam dunk, and it wasn't a slam dunk. That's why you never know how wrong you can be. So you pitch this guy, and now he leaves. He goes to Doofus Rufus Financial Institution. Okay, he liked the deal. Well, then you follow these guys as long as it's not with a lesser institution. The lawyers and the accountants and the financial guys, you follow them to the next deal. Because why have to, build the whole rapport again? Why have to go through all the shit? Because what he's going to try to do when he gets to his new institution is try to bring in as much business as quickly as humanly possible. So he can prove that you didn't make a mistake hiring me. He will have already promised. These are the deals I'm working on now, and I can probably bring 2/3 of them. He's already bullshitted them, And he's already said, if he's got a half a brain, and I'm not sure these young kids have half brains, and I want, instead of the normal cut of the fee on these, I want double the cut, or triple the cut. Okay, that's like a signing bonus.
So,
Yeah, but I don't know if the kids do that. I really don't. But I know in my day, when you left, I got $13 million worth of fees. I can guarantee 6 million of them, and I think there's a high probability on 10 million of them. And they say, okay, well, you can have 40% more fee on this and 60% more fee on this. But then that gives you an incentive to make sure they do the deal, and you're just reinforcing your relationship with a new financial institution or lawyer or accountant, and you are reinforcing, remember the mole that we talked about, you want to mole at these firms? You're reinforcing because now Benjamin, in a legal way, is beholden. You came with me, you had confidence in me, now I'm going to do everything humanly possible to make sure that I get these deals funded for you. And it's a two-way street. Nothing illegal, nothing under the table, no brown bags.
So sometimes when you're making a financial presentation, it involves structure, in a corporate structure.
Correct.
Right? So, like for example, our private placement may involve a pipe transaction where it involves a public entity or whatever, right? And in that case, obviously I'm not a lawyer, right? So when I bring my lawyer to explain, let's say because the financial institution may not be totally familiar, or maybe they have an idea but they want to get into specifics, then I would probably want to bring some of my professionals, right?
Yeah, but that's not the first meeting.
That's all right. Second, third.
Correct.
Okay.
And you're not going to sell these guys in 1 or 2 meetings. Sometimes you do, but it's not very often. You're going to sell them in a series of meetings, and that's how they build up a rapport, and they build up the chemistry, they build up, they like you, or they like the other people, members of the board. And when you go to a second, or third, or fourth meeting, the best is not to bring the same board member every time, to show that these guys have enough interest to fucking come to the meetings. Especially when you live in some place like East Jesus, I mean, they got off their dead ass and then they came.
When you're making these financial presentations and you've got your chair or / other board member, should you have already had an offer letter to them and secured them as part of the team, or just verbal?
You're talking about offer letter to the board member?
Yeah. Like
Yeah, well, they're not going to ask to see the offer letter.
Right.
The fact that he's there is going to be tantamount to, I'm on board. They're not going to ask, well, have you issued his shares? Have you issued his option? They don't do that. Okay. They don't do that. The fact that he's there, I mean,
What if they ask you
In the
about
meetings that I
commitment?
attended with you guys, nobody ever asked me if, I had an offer letter or whatever. Nobody ever asked me.
What if they say, hey, you got Kristen Bell on the board, I see, she wants to do...
Who's that?
She's a big comedy actress.
Okay.
Yeah, she brings in $100 for every dollar you pay her. So, good numbers. What's the level of commitment? Is she on contract to do one out of every 5 movies or whatever it is? What if they ask for commitments?
Okay, well, then you, like I said, the best alternative, which isn't going to happen, I'll make any movie Mikey wants me to. That's the best. Okay? The worst is, I'm just here for a free lunch. That's the worst. So you want, and you say, well, what, if you're here, what are you going to ask, and how are you going to answer if they said, what's your level of commitment? Don't ask that. You tell them what their level. You say, if they ask you, what's your level of commitment? You say that I'm here to make sure that these projects go forward, and I will help in every way I can, whether it's in acting, yada, yada, yada. That's what you want to do.
So is it good to have a diverse people from strictly business to strictly entertainment? And
No, in that board, you want people from business, and you want people from entertainment, and you want people that have done deals. You want people that have done deals.
What about pros and cons of meeting with first time on their turf versus inviting them over?
Okay. When you're a neophyte, and to save their time, they're going to want to see you in their office. Okay. The reason why I like to go to their office, even though it's inconvenient for me, is I want to see, when you walk into the place and they're sitting in a booth that's this big, although you probably won't see that because they're going to ask you to come to a conference room. Okay. You can tell, like I said yesterday, how big is the conference room and who's in the meeting. If he's an assistant manager or some bullshit, he's not a very senior person. If he's a partner or an officer of a financial institution, he's obviously he's more important. They may or may not, in many instances, you guys aren't going to have offices. You have one, but a lot of people aren't going to have offices because it's a startup. We don't have we have a virtual office. We don't have an actual office yet because we're keeping our money unspent.
But you could use your professionals' offices.
Yeah, but once you have an accountant and a lawyer, you have a meeting at the accountant and lawyer's office. And when you have an accountant and a lawyer, you ask them to introduce you to financial institutions. You ask the accountants and the lawyers to introduce you to financial institutions. And that's what they do. That's their job now.
Is it okay that I like taking meetings in the Warner Bros. Lot? Because I have connection to get in there? Throw them around the studio, show them...
Yeah, you can do that, yeah. that may be impressive to some.
Steal a dark card, too.
Okay. Okay, later in the week, there was no feedback now. Okay. Okay, we briefly covered on this debt or equity. Banks are going to want to see more equity than debt. In other words, they want to see 90% equity and 10% debt if they're putting up the debt. You're going to want to see 90% debt and 10% equity because you don't want to be putting up your money. It's a balance, it's what you can get away with the first time. And so I can't tell you, there's no strict rule of thumb. I bought manufacturing plants, and again, when I was in the pallet business, and we bought the ancillary companies. They were mostly equity. There was 60%, 70% equity, and they wanted us to put up 20 or 30% of the debt. They put up 20 or 30% of the debt. Fundamentals of financing: borrow more than you need, no business plan, when to apply. Okay. Since a business plan or a model that you come up with, even before it's written, is just a guess. It's your best estimate of where you're going to be a year, or where you want to be a year or 2 or 3 from now. So you're not cheating or lying or doing anything bad when you ask for more money than you think. Because the operative word is you think. You don't know how much money you're going to need. So if you think you need $1 million and you ask for 3 and you get 1.8, that's okay. That's okay. And the excess amount of money over the projections, because you're going to have to give some sort of projections. You may not have to give a business plan, but you're going to have to put some sort of projections why you need the money, or what they call a use of proceeds. How are you going to use this money? And Benjamin kept trying to get to that. So you ask for more than you think. And I've had people that over the years since 1993, they felt it was immoral to ask, you know, if I think I only need $500,000 and I'm going to ask them for $2 million, that's not right, Dan. And I said, you know, and I've used a couple of examples. So they got $500,000, and then they went through it and they found out they needed $1.3 million. So now you didn't ask for the $1.3 million or the $1.6 million. So now we got to go back to the financial institution a second time, and now they think we're fucking idiots. We got started. You got a big hot shit board. You got me. I told you to ask for $2 million. We asked for fucking $500,000, and now we need $800,000 more dollars. If I'm the banker, fuck, I'm not going to give these fuckers any more money. Everybody asks for more money than they think, except us. And I wrote this book, except us. Yes.
What about an interesting situation where you already have a loan and you're looking for more money? So you don't go to the same bank, but they usually tend to ask if you have any loans out.
Sure, they always will. They will, and when you need more money, there's two ways. Well, there's more than two ways away, but here are two alternatives. You go to 3 or 4 more financial institutions and saying that you're looking to upgrade your relationship with your bank or lending institution. Right now, all I have is a one-way street. You know, I keep money in the bank, I pay interest on the loan, and I pay down a little debt, equity on the loan, but I'm not being serviced. And so my loan currently is $300,000 or whatever the number is, and I'm looking for an additional $1 million, okay? And there's 2 ways of handling that. Either one, they give you the additional $1 million, or they give you $1.3 million so you can pay off the other loan, okay? Then you go back to your existing bank. Okay. Now you're doing 4 or 5 of these, 4 or 5, you get the best rates, and then you go back to your existing bank. Okay, and Marcus is your banker. Marcus, I love you. You know, you help me. But you know, you weren't excited about when I talked to you about expanding, and now I have an opportunity to step up in my banking relationship and basically take out your loan and refinance it 100%, plus get additional credit, loan credit from another bank. And he'll say, well, he won't want you. You know, he'll say, well, how big is the additional credit? And you'll tell him, and if that's within his parameters of lending, he'll say, you know, if he can, and if it is, and he feels good about the loan. 1, he'll feel good because somebody else is willing to loan it to you. Okay. 2, he'll say, okay, well, we can do that as well. And I would say, I'm not suggesting you say, well, fuckhead, I asked you before, and you told me, no, another 3 years of performance and track record and bullshit. That's not what I recommend you say, but that's what I would say. And I said, okay, but because I know you, I said, I'll give you another shot. Okay, what will you do to do this? And then I'd ask for more money. Instead of $1.3 million, I said, well, I want $1.7 million. Squeeze him a little, and maybe he can do $1.7 million, maybe he can't. But, I'll refinance it with you, but I got to have better terms. I got to have better terms than on the $300,000. You know, interest rates have gone down. I paid on it. I've got a track record, whether it's 6 months or 36 months. I got a track record. You know, you ought to be able to cut me a better deal. And so he'll either be able to do it or he won't. And if he is able to do it, and let's say he can only match the new bank, then you make a decision. Where are your long-term prospects better? You know, I mean, even though he's a nice guy, and hopefully you're not playing golf with him, and hopefully you're not fucking playing bridge with him or anything else, and hopefully your wives don't go to fucking whatever, and your kids don't go to camp together, okay? But so then you pick the financial institution that can be the best for you going forward.
They usually takes about 30 to 45 days from my experience to get a loan. Mm-hmm. And is there a way to put some pressure on them? Is there some technique? It sounds like going to one bank and dealing with them for 30 days and then getting it almost approved and then going back and talking. It may take a few months to get it done.
Yeah, well, no, you do it all simultaneous. You do it all time, and when the bank, you go to 3 or 4 other banks, and all those banks say, well, not all of them, let's say most of them say yes. And then you ask them, I want to see a term sheet. A term sheet doesn't take any time. You know, like the term sheet I just read you. Term sheet, okay. And let's say 2 of the 3 banks come back with a term sheet. and you know, and hopefully the term sheet is what they said it was going to be, but often it's not. Okay, often they just bullshit you, and they're hoping you don't ask them for a term sheet. So and then you can take now. I've taken term sheets like this. I've redacted, I've blackened out the guy's name and the company name. There's the term sheet, and they'll go, well, you know, they'll kind of gurgle a little, and they say, you know, sometimes they'll want the term sheet, sometimes they won't. Okay, when you're young, and you know, they'll probably want the term sheet. When I tell them I can borrow the money 2 points lower, they normally believe me. Not always, normally. One time, about 10 years ago in Florida, they didn't believe me, but they believed Sally. And the interesting thing about it is, they always believe Sally. They always believe her. It's like we're doing a deal up here a few years ago, and the banker wanted to come in and meet with me, and he said, "Where's Sally?" I said, "Sally has another meeting in the drawing room." Well, says, "Well, I'd like to talk to her." So anyway, the meeting ended, and we brought her in, and he asked her the question. He said, "What do you think, Sally?" Because she's a qualified, not just because she's a chartered accountant, international tax expert. She's a qualified person that has done a lot of deals with credibility for Ernst & Young. You know, and they look at her and they want to say, "Sally, I want you to look me in the eye and tell me that this is doable and it's going to be okay." And she says, "Yes." And they don't give a fuck what you say. And if they get to know you, they'll know not to believe you. But that's why you have somebody like that. You know, I used to have John Ernest, the former CFO of Gulf Oil that was merged into Chevron. And, you know, he was a former partner with Price Waterhouse, yada, yada. And he was just a real credible, solid guy. And when he said something, I mean, people believed him. And, you know, you want somebody on the team that has that kind of credibility. And it makes, you know, and then they'll say, "Who put the numbers together?" And I'd say, you know, John did. And, or Sally did, or Jeremy did, or somebody, you know, somebody of that ilk. We happen to have 2, 3 of those kind of guys, because they're working on different things. They can't all be at the same place at the same time. You know, and for Jeremy, I mean, he's ex-McKinsey, he's ex-Cazenove. Cazenove is like one of the premier merchant banks here in the UK, and the world for them. Cazenove is now owned by J.P. Morgan. You know, he's London Business School, you know, and he's got all this, you know, accolades and shit. And so, they, you know, when Jeremy says something, they say, "Oh, okay." You know, when they know, even now, I tend to exaggerate. And so they say, you know, so they may shade whatever I say. But if I say Sally did it or Jeremy did it, or if I say both of them did it, then, you know, they take it more or less to gospel, even though they know there's no guarantees. So, yes, I mean, you need somebody like that, and that's how you work the banks to your benefit. I used to say work them against each other, but that's not really right. In small towns, and I don't know how small Reno is, I've been there a while, you take, you say you're going to meet Rufus, Bank A, your current bank, your lunch, and you tell you have a meeting. This happened by accident to me the first time, but after I saw how well it worked, I did it on purpose. That the 2 bankers that you're trying to wine and dine, they all go to lunch the same place. So you take your current banker to the lunch place that 2 guys that you're wining and dining, or they're wining and dining you, and then while you're having lunch with the banker, you say, "Excuse me, Doris," and you go up and say, "Oh, Rufus, how are you?" They know, "Oh, hi, Doofus, how are you?" Then you go back to your table and you don't say anything. Of course, this guy knows who these guys are, and you know, and sometimes they'll say something, sometimes they won't. But even if they don't say anything, they make a mental note. You know, Jesus Christ, our 2 biggest competitor, what the fuck's he talking to these people for? And it works. Believe me, it works. Yeah, Benjamin.
We once were pitching to 2 private equity firms, and they were in the same tower, the same building. And the people who were working on the deal didn't want to let the other firm, the other PE, know that we were talking to the other guy while we were, you know, talking about. And is that the was that the right thing, or should we have kind of made it obvious that we
No, that wasn't. That's the right thing for them. That's not the right thing for you.
right? Because they didn't, because they talk, PE firms talk all.
Oh, absolutely. There is no. You know why they call it a Chinese wall? Chinese wall meaning that they keep the information secret, because there are no secrets in China. Chinese wall is like Swiss cheese. Every fucking person tells everybody else. That's why they call it a Chinese wall. People have forgotten that. But not having been in China a year and a half, I remember why it's called a Chinese wall. Because there is no secrecy. Reminds me, Casey Stevenson, who died a year ago last summer, he's exactly 10 years my junior, former heroin addict, I'm into prison, great success story, turnaround. I'm the chairman of his company, and he's the whale that got swallowed by the minnow. And I left the company because it became obvious that he didn't want to sell or go public because he enjoyed sucking in the money. And I said, fine. I gave him my equity back. I said, give it to your daughter. He just had a daughter. Give her my 25%, and God love you. Okay. But I said, I'm going to do you one favor before I leave. I'm going to refinance the company. So his bank was Wells Fargo, and Wells Fargo. The Warner Company was the second or third customer that Wells Fargo ever had in 1859. Okay. And so I brought in the big hot shit from Wells Fargo, and he was an Asian guy, really nice man, had been at Wells Fargo all his life. And I said that, I'm leaving. He said, why are you leaving? I said, because, Casey's happy here, and he doesn't want to press the edges in the envelope anymore. He's made a lot of money, and I'm leaving. And I said, but we're going to refinance the company before I leave. So he gets a little nervous. Well, what do you mean you refinance the company? Well, we're going to refinance it. We're going to pay off debt. We're going to do this. We're going to increase the capital stock in the company. He says, well, we'd be glad to do that. And I said, no. You're just going to be one of 11 institutions that can bid on the business. We've been their banker 165 years. He raises his voice to me. And what the fuck have you done for us lately? And he said, that's hard. He says, Mr. Peña, it'd be better you just leave. And I said, well, I'm not. And Casey's sitting right there. And Casey's just, I guess. And so, and the CFO is going, oh, fuck. And the controller's going, oh, fuck. And I said, okay, you're one. And I said, well, this is what we want, and this and that and the other. So then we got 11 institutions, and we had them all in the conference room, all sitting together.
Oh, my.
Quarter to 11, we told you, 11:15, that we knew we were going to see them in more than 15 minutes. So at any given time, there were at least 9 banks in that room. And when they came in, they said, one bank left. I said, fuck this, I'm not going to be in a beauty contest. I said, fuck him, okay, leave. Don't let the door hit you on the ass on the way out. And so we interviewed these guys, and it took us all day till 6, 7 o'clock at night. And we told them, and I said,